Okay, so this presentation is the recruiting presentation. It's going to start at the same, they're going to run very similar, but there's some things that we leave out. This one's a little bit more slim, and because we have to make it for the compensation part. So here we go. So Bob, before we begin, have you played the game Monopoly? Yeah. Okay, so who wins when you play the game Monopoly? Yep, you're right, the person with the most money. So, Bob, I want you to, the game we play here is called Monopolized. And what I want you to do is to imagine that all the wealth in this country is condensed down to just $100, okay? We're going to divide that $100 between 5 groups of people. All right, so the first group is the poorest 20%. The poorest 20% are migrant workers, wait personnel, people in government assistance. How much do you think they have? $5. Okay. And then the next group of people that we have is the lower middle class. These are entry-level white collar workers, our blue collar workers. How much do you think they have? Okay, so Bob, you said $10. All right. Now, our middle class, these are our cops, our teachers, our firefighters, the backbone of America. Okay, and you say they have $15? All right. Now we have our upper middle class. These people tend to be management, degree professionals. They've got the nice car, the big house. Okay, all right. You say that they have $20, and so now we have our upper 20%. The bottom of the upper 20% are like doctors and lawyers. It goes up from there. So what you're saying is, based on the math, they have $50, right? Okay, so the way that it breaks down is this. The bottom 20% would have 5 cents. The lower middle class would have 15 cents. The middle class, cops, and teachers, or firefighters, $4. The upper middle class, people we tend to think are doing well, they have $11. And finally, the top 20% would have $84.80. Okay? And actually, this is almost slightly misleading because of this. If you look at this on the graph, you've got the 80, and then you've got the 100. Again, the bottom of this is doctors and lawyers, okay? So it's going to go up. And if you go, it's kind of gradually increase, and about 95% is going to start to shoot way up. All right? So here's my question to you. Do you think the people on this side of the line are getting the same quality of financial advice as the people on this side of the line? No. Okay. Well, we do focus on the people on this side of the line. We believe in helping, middle America and doing the best we can. And so you've heard that expression, the rich get rich, and what? You're right, Bob, the poor get poor. Okay, so here is why we feel it is important that we do what we do. Okay, so Bob, most people get up 5 days a week and they go where? You're right. They go to work. So in 1978, the average male American worker made equivalent in today's buying power of $48,000. All right. In 1978, the average CEO made $385,000. So Bob, here's my question to you. What do you think the average male worker makes today? You said 40,000? You're actually right, it's gone down a little bit. It's gone down to 33,000, which is a drop of 30%. All right. So what do you think the average CEO makes today? All right. Your guess is 500,000? It's actually 1.2 million. It's going up 300%. All right. Now, Bob, just on the surface, does that sound fair to you? No. Okay. I didn't think so. So Bob, when most people become financially stable, they typically want to own a piece of the American dream. They want to own a what? Right. You said home, Bob. Good job. All right. So let's say the average piece of real estate here in New Mexico is $200,000. All right. And let's say they went to the bank and they got a interest rate between 3.5% to 5.5%, and these are historical lows, by the way. We agree that's a pretty good interest rate, right? Yeah. Okay, good. You know that means they pay back between $140,000 and $215,000 in pure interest. All right. It's basically buying the house, and they get 30 years to do it. Now, Bob, outside of the excitement of owning a home and fulfilling that dream, does that sound like a good deal to you? No. Okay, I agree. It really doesn't sound like a good deal. Okay, so Bob, what else people have outside of their home is they have usually some sort of household debt. Okay, in 1978, average household debt was $1,700. All right, what do you think average household credit card debt is today? Just credit cards. You think it's about 10,000? Actually, it's about 16,000 is the average. Does that shock you at all? Yeah, it is pretty stunning, right? And by the way, we're not talking about student loans or car notes or anything else. We're just talking about simply credit card debt. All right. So about finally, people work somewhere 30, 35 years. What does they want to do finally? You're right. They want to retire. Okay, so do you know the most popular retirement plan out there, by the way, Bob? You're absolutely right. It's called a 401k. All right, so I am not a big fan of the 401k. However, nobody cares what I think. However, the man who's known as the father of the 401k has this to say: if I knew then what I know now, I would blow the system up and start over. Doesn't really sound like a ringing endorsement, does it? So, let me show you something. So let's say we got a couple. They went to work at 18 years old. They're average wage earners, but they are dedicated savers. Okay, they work their entire life. They're 65 now. It's time for them to retire. Pretty close by time for them to retire. They put away $400,000. Do you think they have any idea they paid $150,000 in fees to do that? You're absolutely right. They have no idea they've paid that much in fees. Okay, so Bob, do you think it's possible the market may ever crash again? Yeah, you're right. It's just a matter of time. Okay, so my question to you is, let's say that it's not as bad as it was before. It wasn't as bad 2008 or 2001, and it's only 30% this time. All right. So now you're down to 280,000, and one of the great things I tell you about a 401k is that it's tax deferred, which actually means you can end up paying more in taxes than you ever actually contributed. Did you know that? Doesn't sound like a good deal, does it? All right, so now we're going to pay our taxes. We paid $80,000. We've got $200 left. By the way, imagine you're a farmer. Would you rather pay taxes on the harvest or the seed? You pay on the seed, right? Well, here we're paying on the harvest. So now we've got $200,000. Now, Bob, let me ask. Say this couple retires together at age 65. How long do you think this $200,000 is going to last them? Okay, 10, maybe 15 years, right? Okay. Well, what's going to happen when that money goes to zero? You're right. They're going to be out of luck or try to go back to work if someone will hire them at 75, 80 years old. So, Bob, what I'm going to do is present to you some options that we teach to our clients, that we educate people on, and you simply tell me if this was your money, which one you would choose, and don't ever hurt my feelings. I want your honest opinion. Is that okay? All right. So, let's look at this retirement. All right. So let's say we've got the same couple, and they have worked all their life. They've saved $400,000. However, instead of paying $150,000 in fees, they only pay $75,000. All right. So now, when the market goes up, their money's going to go up, of course, right? What's going to happen when the market goes down? Actually, Bob, when the market crashes, they lose nothing. And at this point, the market only goes one direction. Okay. So now we got $400,000. We've actually had some growth on principal. How much do you think they're going to owe in taxes? That's a pretty good guess, but they're actually going to owe nothing in taxes. Okay? So now they've retired and they've got $400,000, which we can agree is at least twice as good as $200,000, right? Okay, so now we got our $400,000, and let's say they do what your financial advisors tell you to do, take out 4 or 5% per year, okay? Now, what's gonna happen when this account balance goes to zero? Actually, they're gonna get income for life. So this money is never gonna run out. They're gonna get a check for life, no matter how long they live. They can live to be 120 years old, they're gonna get income for life. So if this is your money, Bob, which one would you choose? Okay, so you would choose this one, all right? This one is Bob proof. By the way, I kind of left some amount, kind of the cherry on top, if you will. So the 75,000 here, when they pass on, let's say this turns into a death benefit to their family, tax-free of $250,000. Okay, would you still choose this one? Right, okay, I was just checking. All right, so we've kind of talked about a better option for retirement. And so let's talk about the debt. All right, so there are two types of debt. There are manageable debt and unmanageable debt. Manageable debt is where someone can afford to pay their bills. It's within their budget. They just have a lot of bills. And we find that 90+% of families are paying their bills incorrectly. So we have this great little software, we enter information, the account balances, with the interest rates, and give them the fastest way to pay off the bills. I sat down with a family and did this. They weren't even interested in this particular product. But once we did the math, we actually saved them 2 years and $3,300 in pure interest without changing the amount they were paying out monthly. They're paying the exact same amount. And they were actually very, very happy to be offered that plan. The second thing we have is unmanageable debt. This is where people that are considering bankruptcy, the situation is just out of control. I can think of another situation. We had a client, he had about $50,000 in consumer debt. We average out his interest rates is about 18% interest. You know, $50,000 plus 18% interest, that's very difficult to get in front of. And this guy actually wanted to pay his bills. He was a vet. He believed in paying his bills, but they had just gotten out of control. So when you file bankruptcy, it's on your credit for 10 years. It will preclude you from working in certain fields because you're now a financial risk. And so the question is there a better option? And we think so. And here's our option. So what you can do is called a debt consolidation. And so essentially what you're going to do is you're going to take that $50,000, negotiate it down to about half. So in this case, let's say it's $25,000. The most important thing you're going to do is stop all interest charges. So you're going from $50,000 plus 18% interest. Now you're $25,000 with zero interest and a 2 to 4 year payoff plan. Okay, you're typically dropping their consumer debt load by about 2/3. So say they're going from $1,200 to $400 a month. Do you think people would choose that option? Absolutely. Okay. All right. So that's Bob proof number 2. So let's go back and look at the mortgage. Okay. So you own a home. We talked about it's 30 years. It's basically 100% interest. Is there a better way? Okay. So entertain me about it. Let's say hypothetically, theoretically, we've got the traditional plan here. All right. What if we could teach someone to pay their home off in 12.5 years? Okay. The math doesn't quite work out here, but bear with me. They only pay $120,000 in interest. The $80,000 they save plus the 17.5 years, they get to retire with an additional $200,000. Now, how many people do you think would rather retire with an additional $200,000 versus giving away all their money to the bank? Right, most of them. Now, how many people do you think know about this plan? That's right, not very many. You're absolutely correct, okay? So let's go back and look at the work, okay? Let's talk about a better option here, okay? Now, we know we're not going to go to your employer and say, hey, pay a fair wage. That's not going to happen. We know that we aren't going to be able to go to the government and say, hey, increase the wages so that people can survive. We know that's not going to happen to you, okay? Now, Bob, let me ask you this. What do you think the wage of the average, what do you think the average household income is today? Okay. So your guess is about 60,000. Okay. It's actually 45. So it's actually even less than the single earner made back in 1978. So here's what we know. Average household makes $45,000 per year. Do you think by sharing these financial principles we talked about, we can make, say, an additional $15,000 per year for this family? Let's say with taking out for taxes, whatever the case, that equals an additional $800 to $1,000 a month. That makes a difference in most households. Yeah, we totally agree. Okay, so we talked about what we do and why we do it. And I want to talk about what makes us unique. Okay? So here's what makes us unique. So when a family goes to talk to someone about their retirement planning, the 401k guy comes in, whatever, is he talking about paying off their home? No, you're right. When someone talks about, looking at their debt or maybe filing bankruptcy, is that person at their retirement plan or their home value? No. So when you're wealthy, you have a wealth advisor. And here's where we step up. When we look at families' financial situations, we look at the entire picture. We look at someone's home. How long they've been in, how quickly they could pay it off. We look at their debt situation as it relates to their retirement and paying off the home, et cetera, et cetera. We look at the entire circle. We look at maybe they need to make additional income. Maybe they're just scraping by and can't do anything. Maybe they can make an additional income. We look at all aspects of this because how am I supposed to give you a plan if I don't look at every aspect? If I don't look at every aspect of your finances, it doesn't make any sense, right? Okay. So this is what we do, and this is what makes us unique. And I don't know of any other companies in this country that work this way. Okay. So Bob, here is basically what we do, and it's really very simple. All right. So we provide financial education. We don't charge families anything for our service, but here is what we do. We talked about a lot of options that you hadn't heard of, and most families have not heard of this as well. So we got what we just call a financial checkup. Financial checkup's like going to the doctor. You go to the doctor and he says, you know what, Bob, you're working out and eating right, you're going to end up here. Bob, you got to lay off the cheeseburgers, get some exercise, you're going to end up here. Okay? That's basically what we do with families. We sit down with families, we figure out where they currently are, we ask them their goals, what do they want to accomplish, we figure out what's important to them, and based upon the information where they are and the information that tells us where they want to be, we give them a plan of action. Again, we don't charge families anything to do this. Here is why we do this. The average American family has a savings of $3,800 in the bank and $16,000 in credit card debt. That really sounds like it should be backwards, right? 50% of households have no retirement account. Of households with retirement accounts, the average balance is $38,000. 70% of households with life insurance policies are underinsured. 30% of households have no life insurance at all, and this includes many households with children. So here's what we teach. We teach generational wealth. Generational wealth, when you're wealthy, it's expected you will plan 3 generations ahead. That means you're putting away money for people that won't even be born for 50 to 75 years. Okay? We realize most working class families cannot afford to do this, but what they can do is take care of their own children or grandchildren. What people don't realize, most families don't realize, is that for as little as $50 a month with the right interest rate, a child that is born can retire a millionaire. Most families don't know that. We talked about debt management. We'll talk about family protection. Family protection is simply life insurance. People do not understand how affordable, how inexpensive it is. We sat down with a family that had 2 household income. The wife had $10,000 in life insurance. What happens to your family if something happens to you? They can't make ends meet. Her $200,000 policy was only $19 a month. So people do not realize how affordable it is. Market participation without risk. This is one of our core principles. I'll come back and talk about this for just a second. Guaranteed retirement plan. This is what we talked about earlier. With someone, it's kind of like a self-funded pension. They put their money in and they are guaranteed a certain amount of income for life, even if they outlive their principal. Gym and home ownership. I ask people, do you own a home? And they're like, yeah, we own a home. What happens if you stop paying that mortgage? Well, they come kick you out. So you don't own a home, you own a mortgage. By the way, do you know what mortgage means? It means death, mortality. Gage means pledge. So basically your mortgage means a death pledge. Okay. So let's talk about this market participation and then we'll talk compensation, okay? So market participation without risk. So let's say that you have $100 in the market, all right? And the market goes up 50%. What do you have? Yes, you're right. You have 150. Let's say the next day the market goes down 50%. What do you have? Actually, it's not 100. You have 75. Let's say the market goes up 50% again. I won't make you do this math. It's now 112.50. It's going to go down 50%. You end up at 56.25. It's going to go up one more time. 83.12. What I want you to notice is you've gone up 1, 2, 3 times, down only twice, but you have less money than you started with. And you know what really burns me up, Bob? If you went to this investment firm and asked for their perspectives, they would show an average return of 10%. Now, does that look like 10% to you? No, because you're right, you're in the negative. But if you did the math, this would be an average return of 10%. It doesn't sound fair. I don't think they should be able to do this, but they do. Now, here's our option, one of our core principles, okay? We do what's called indexing. And here's the difference. You give up a little bit to get a little bit. So, say we have that same $100 in the market. All right. Market goes up 50%, we're only going to get half. All right, so market goes up, everybody gets 50%, we get 125. They're ahead of us right now. Boom, okay? Now the market's going to drop. We're going to stay flat. Okay? Market's going to go up again. We're going to go to 156. All right? Market's going to drop. We're going to stay flat. It's going to go up one more time. We're only getting half of what everybody else is getting. We're now at 193. Let me ask you, if this is your money, would you take the 193 or the 83.12? You're absolutely right. You would take this. Now, here's my question. How many people do you think know about this option? You're absolutely right. Not very many. So, what we do is simple. We sit down with families, we see where they are, what they're currently doing, and we educate them on better options, and we don't charge them anything to do this. However, like I said before, this is a very lucrative business. So, our average premium per family, this is life insurance, perhaps generational wealth policies, retirement planning, all together is $250 per family. Okay? So the way this works is the insurance company will advance us 12 months. All right? It's $3,000. Okay? And as an agent, you'd be entitled to $1,600. All right? Now, we do a lot of, this is life insurance. We do big, small, but in the end it averages about this. All right? We also do annuities. The way annuity works, oh, sorry, I forgot to mention life insurance. So with life insurance, you also get recall residuals. So after the 13th month and beyond, as long as the policy is in place, you get 1% of the premium amount. So here it's $250, so you get $2.50, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but if you're in the business long enough and you can stick with it, this can obviously build up. I know people who've been in business for 25, 30 years who make 60, 70 grand a year in simply residuals. Okay? So now we have annuities. Annuities do not have any residuals. However, they pay out very nicely. So let's say that you have someone who rolls over $20,000, $50,000. This is their life savings. They're protecting it from the market. They don't want the downs anymore. They don't want the market to crash and wipe out their savings. They get close to retirement. This is the option they choose. Okay, so $250,000 would pay out about $20,000 in commission. If you wrote this policy at your 55%, you'd make $11,000. That's not bad income, right? There's no residuals, but this is not bad. Now, everything else we do, you know, the debt consolidation, the accelerated mortgage payoff, etc. Each one of these has a different factor, but you're going to get 55% of that. Okay? Now, let me introduce you to a couple of concepts as well. Okay? So, when we bring someone on, their first 10 training appointments, they start as a trainee. A trainee gets 40%, all right? A trainer gets 15% because they have to be compensated for going out and helping them. That's only fair, right? So let's say that you recruited someone who went out and wrote this business and you were the trainer. Okay, so they went out and wrote this business, you would earn $450. Okay, you went out as a trainer on this $20,000 annuity, you would make $3,000. Okay, now let's say that you were not only the trainer, but you recruited them into the business. Okay, so let's say that you went out, you recruited someone. They went out and wrote this policy. You didn't know anything about it. You had nothing to do with it. You were just on the team. You just made $450. They went and wrote this annuity. You made $3,000. Not bad, right, for something that you had nothing to do with. Here's the sweeter part. Let's say that you train them and recruit them. This policy's written. You just made $900. Here, you just made $6,000. Okay? So that is the opportunity. We love people who come in part-time and grow into the business. That is our preference. Does this sound like a fit for you? Awesome. We'll get you signed up and started. So that's it. That is the recruiting presentation. The goal is to introduce these concepts and make sure they will understand very quickly that people do not have access to information. They don't know this information, and we're a great resource to get it. That's it.